Hello, all of you. Make yourself be loud, make yourself sound like more than you are. Wow, what a crowd.
Thanks
All right.
for everybody enduring the heat.
Yes,
We
yes,
appreciate it.
we do appreciate it. Okay.
For those of you that are staying at home, we do have air conditioning here. So
yeah, and it actually works really well at the Bridgeport offices.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
you wouldn't even know it's hot outside.
that's because we have 2 out of 3 new high efficiency HVAs.
Well, there we
last
go.
few years.
That's how we do it. That's how we do it. All right. So if you need to beat the heat, come on in here. We've got plenty of space. Okay. Let's do this, Austin. Roll the first slide. Hey, this is important. Realtors for readers. So a fellow KW agent has started a program to raise money to buy books for kids. Obviously, this is super important. Reading is obviously very important, and we should support this. So if you'd like more information about that, hit the QR code at the upper right-hand corner. If you're on Zoom, you can follow there as well, and donate as you can. Thank you. Next. Okay, so on Wednesday, the 16th, from 2 to 4, you want to talk?
Yeah, I'll talk. Technically still on the phone. So KDYP, we're going to be hosting tomorrow afternoon the Mega Agent Camp Advance. So there's typically like breakout sessions at the end of Mega Camp that for different Keller Williams organizations, and KDYP Young Professionals is one of those. Last year we did have Jason Abrams be a special guest at it. It was awesome. I was there in person. It's weird seeing those type of like people at Keller Williams Realty International that you see on the screen every week.
Because they're not as tall as you think they
you're
are.
like, this is like a Tom Cruise effect. Like they're shorter than you expected. But no. Jason Abrams is awesome. But this time Gary Keller himself is going to be at the Young Professionals breakout. So it's gonna be really cool to see him there as well. And it's a 2-hour little series thing. We'll have some sandwiches and things like that for people who come, but all are welcome. Come on in.
And where is it?
Here at the office. And it's all like we're promoting it out to all the other Keller Williams offices and professionals in Portland. So it's not just going to be our office, it'll be other people as well. But we'll just live stream it here on the projector, and then yeah, come on in. And then just a little side note, during Mega Camp, it's like I guess between the 11th and I think it's the 17th, anybody who wants to join KWIP, you can actually join for a discount. I think it's 20% off to join KWIP. I think you just use KWIP 20 as a discount code. If you're interested, let me know. You can get a discount. It's all about the spirit. It's about how, yeah, it's not the looks. It's your mentality. So I mean, people can join KWIP who are not 40 and under. It's anybody they want to. So yeah,
Fantastic.
Come on, join.
Yeah, that's good. So
Good
we're going to
stuff.
have it here for anyone across the city that wants to come, and it'll be broadcast in air conditioned training room.
That's right.
There you go.
What is the forecast for Thursday?
I think in 99, 101. It's hot tomorrow too. And if you have not heard Gary speak, he has like this, he's able to make complex things simple, and he has this common sense tone about him, perception or whatever, or common sense perspective that just like resonates. So if you never heard him speak and you want someone to like open your eyes to something, Gary's kind of the guy to do it. He does a great job.
He does. And I would add this, he does talk about the state of the business, which includes the company and the economy. And I will tell you, I was anxious to hear if he was going to comment on the fact that yesterday, China, the People's Bank of China, dropped their interest rate, the equivalent of our Fed, by the biggest drop since COVID started.
Wow.
Their economy is slowing down so fast. They're trying to get ahead of it by lowering interest rates, and that will have a huge impact on our economy. And so I'm excited from the prospect that it probably means we will see lower rates sooner than maybe we would have, because if China is dropping that quickly in their economy and their production, it will have an impact on our inflation, which will allow the Fed to lower rates very quickly. So anyway, be advised, this will be important.
But what is that? So what do you think is going to happen when rates drop here?
Well, Portland is still quite strong. We have great employment. So if suddenly we saw rates drop, let's say the sellers were conditioned to give a credit.
Mhm.
We've been talking about that. So
Yeah.
let's say I had your listing
Mhm.
in the MLS with a $15,000 credit
Mhm.
available for closing costs or buy downs. And let's say it was a $700,000 listing.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden the rates drop, the Fed drops their rates, the bank dropped their rates over 30 days or 45 days, and suddenly rates are in the fives.
Mhm.
And we have a buy down.
Mhm.
It means I have a client that might be able to get a loan at 4 3/4, 5 1/4,
Mhm.
instead of 6.5, 7, which is
Mhm.
what we've seen.
Yeah.
And so if I have a listing,
Yeah.
I'll be very excited because it'll close right. It'll
Absolutely.
sell fairly quickly.
Yeah. And I would think that the buying power for everybody is going to go up, right? Because all of a sudden, like a big drop in rates like that really affect people's ability to
Well, more importantly, we have the sellers. Most of the sellers are more conditioned right now to
Yeah.
a slower market,
Yeah.
right? Because they're not having activity on their houses. And so if you're doing your job, you're either lowering their price or
they're offering to buy.
you're including credits,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Which
Yeah.
we've heard works really well, is
Mhm.
working really well right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
So if you already have the credits and they're ready to pay credits, and then the rates come down, and then we get a surge in business because we've got some pent up demand. We know
Yeah.
that, right?
Yep.
People can't move, and
We talked about this
I think
yesterday.
it would be,
Yeah.
be huge for people that
Yeah.
especially have listings.
We talked about this last week. Absorption rate went from like 1.9 to 2 to 2.5 last month, right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty significant jump. But I would think if rates come down, that'll go back below 2 again pretty fast, I would think. So cool. All right. Let's keep going. Hey, our guy Rick Gray is back. And he's going to expand on a topic he touched on the last time he was here. And it's using AI to enhance your business and life. And guys, I really think if you aren't plugged into this, you're missing the boat and people are going to lap you. You know, like in business, efficiency is so much of what you do. And if you can automate something, if you can find something that's going to help you do something at a higher level or easier, quicker than you're doing it before, if you're not using it, somebody else is, and they're doing something else that's making them money, that's taking money from you probably, right? Because in real estate, we're all after the same leads. And if somebody's figuring out how to do all this stuff easier than you are, then they're going to be taking your business. So I think it's really important that we all plug in and understand how to use AI, at least from the perspective to know what you're up against, much less trying to figure out how to utilize it for yourself. So come Thursday, August 24th, 11 a.m.
Yeah,
Here.
we've already had Rick. We know he's
Smart.
always had great information. He's right on the leading edge of information, how realtors are using chat. So
Yeah. And he's also very good at presenting. Like he's a great presenter. That's something, right? It's not just knowing it, it's being able to tell you about it. He can do both. So come on in and plug into that. And then on Wednesday, the 30th, I'm excited for this, the Art of Portland Metro Architectural Styles and Home Design. I love Portland architecture. I'm a little bit of a dork about it. I love all the little varieties. We have a unique architectural culture here. We have our own kind of group of famous architects that, you know, like Sundleaf and Hemingway, and who are the other ones we have around here?
well, in Lake Oswego, it's mostly Sundleaf. It seems
Yeah.
like I always
So
run into
Roscoe
it.
Hemingway, didn't he do a lot of stuff in
He did some, yeah.
in Portland? And anyways, there's a great tradition of architecture here in Portland. And so plug in this with Tim Young, another really good presenter, a lot of fun. This should be a great class. August 30th, 11 to 12. It's a great way to get a credit hour and also learn a little something back. You know, my ex-wife used to watch a lot of those real estate TV shows, and I'd have to watch them with her. And I was always looking at like the one that took place in like Southern California. There was a realtor that knew all about the architecture on that show. And I was always so impressed about it because he could walk into a house and say, oh, this is such and such architect. I always thought that was like, wow, that guy doesn't lose a lot of listings knowing that much about the house.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyways,
Who's the architect that has the flatter roof style, the lower profile houses?
oh, those are Rummers. The Rummers. Are you talking about?
No.
No?
No.
Are you talking about the right houses?
No. Who's the architect that's so well known for having naturalist kind of approach to housing and the roofs? Frank Lloyd Wright.
Well,
Yeah, that's
yes,
what you're
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, then there's Rummers.
When you said Wright houses, I
Yeah.
was thinking RIGHT houses.
Locally, there's an architect. His name was Bob Rummer, and he went down to California and copied a style called Eichler. He's another architect down in Southern California. He was a guy. He was a traveling salesman. He would go down to LA and he fell in love with these houses down there and he came up here and built them. And so there's these clusters of Rummers all over the Portland metropolitan area. They're called Rummers, and Bob Rummer was his name. I think he's still alive and it's a cantankerous old man, but
We'll find it. We'll find out.
yeah. But anyways, he has a following. Okay, on to the next. Broker Bucks. Who wants to talk about this? So we've talked about it enough. Somebody else should get the presentation, right?
I'll talk about it. What we're seeing is that more people are listening to us. I had a really good call with someone who I've been talking to for a few years at Sotheby's office, and Sotheby's just raised their fees significantly for all their agents. And I thought, I wonder what he's thinking now. And last time I talked to him, he said he didn't want to talk anymore about potentially what KW had to offer. I didn't say take no for an answer. And I called and he said, let's meet in the fall.
So we're going to give you $200.
Eventually.
I love that.
She's got to meet first.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
But
Hey, this is
but it's a team. It's a team that does 50 million. So why would he want to meet? Why would he say yes, number one? And why would they want to meet in the fall? Well, so he said, that's when my business drops.
Yep.
That's when I actually have time to make changes.
Yep.
And it happened to be, and I had mentioned to him that I moved in February to KW because I knew that was about the right time for me. I had to be gone at my new company before the market picked up. And I was starting to get listings. I wanted him to come on with the new company.
Yep.
And so anytime in October, November, December, right? So this is the time when people are willing to sit down and have a conversation about whether they're in the right place to grow their business.
Yep.
And so that's why we're doing this program, because we know that you'll get the ear of more realtors right now who'll be willing to listen to you about what KW offers versus what their company might be offering right now.
Yeah. So if there's a realtor you'd like to see more of, like, give us their name. We'll give them a call. And you get $200 if they make an appointment with Crane, which is great. $200 cash. Who doesn't need that? So it's cool. All right. Thank you, Austin. We have a brief little run up today. We had some technical difficulties pushing the correct buttons on the technology at 6 a.m. this morning. We can all be forgiven for that because nobody's good at 6 a.m. in the morning on things. So we do have an equally important topic, OREF forms updates, and there's several important things on here that we all should pay attention to. Austin, why don't you just hand me the little clicker? And I'll run through this so you can free your mind up. You can relax a little bit. All right. Okay. So we have 3 new forms that have come up this year, this half year. The first one is an advisory instructions regarding real estate purchase and sale forms. This is a reaction to the new Oregon Realtor forms. It's an advisory, but what's important about this here is just an acknowledgement here, the alternatives, talking about how they should seek out legal advice, what you're able to do, what you're not able to do. Use this form if you think there's ever going to be a situation where you might have somebody interested in both form sets. I would definitely pull this out for that. Okay. The next one is a new notice. Okay. So I think this is a great form. It's got several different, there's a notice from buyer to seller and seller to buyer, but they're notice of contingencies. So like in the past, if you had a failure of a financial contingency, all you would do is just send over an email or make up your own addendum or whatever to this. Now there's a form. So there's also a intent to proceed as well. And that's something we don't use all the time. But if you wanted to be buttoned up, you could do that. If you wanted to really follow your timelines, exercise of an option, which is something we use it often, intent to terminate under a well addendum, an ability to assume a third-party agreement. So this is a good form addition, using in those specific ideas as opposed to freehanding an addendum. And then here's the seller version of it. So disapproval of verification of funds, response to objections of title, change to seller representations, yada, 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 yada. So some things that we did not have a specific form for before that we had to freehand. Now there's something for it. So if you have a change come up in a transaction, you may want to take a look at these to see if they fit your situation better than using your own form. Now, why should you use the pre-printed form? Anyone? but it saves you time for sure. It's also good for your E&O. It's if you're using the pre-printed form instead of freehanding, it's gonna look better if you ever get called up in front of an arbitrator and they start dissecting what you've done. So it's always good. Code of Ethics encourages you to use the pre-printed forms as opposed to freehanding things. So always try to use these when possible. Any comment, Dwight?
No, I would
Okay.
say that's the main thing is that, in a hurry or under a little bit of pressure, you might not remember all the things you need to comment upon in these forms. And that's why we have the forms to make sure that
Yes.
we include everything we need to. So you will be very, very thankful if you were called into a mediation or an arbitration or small claims court to be able to say, hey, I used this form and it's very clear on line X what it said and what it meant. Then it's case closed. But if you freehand it, that's where we as realtors get into trouble.
Yeah, there's this term called construction. It's a legal term, and basically it means the person who wrote it has the responsibility to write it to be clear and concise, understandable, and the person who receives it, their understanding of what you wrote kind of trumps what you wrote anyways. So like, unless it's super duper clear, if it's any biggerty going on, then the people who receive the form, their understanding will take a precedence over the understanding of the person who wrote it. Does that track everybody? Okay, cool. All right. So there's some mid-year changes to the agreements here, and they're all listed here. We'll go through these one at a time. The residential sale agreement. So there's been just some slight changes here. Just as based on seller feedback, approvers add the final language and acknowledgement section instructing agents to identify all additional agents involved in the final agency section by identifying them in an addendum. So that means like when you're filling out the top of your agreement, if there's multiple brokers, like if there's a buyer's broker, or if somebody's on a team, you want everybody listed out there so everybody's clear who's working with who. Okay, this is the big change here in the sale agreement. This is a huge change on how we're going to do business. Okay, so remember at the top of section 4 in the sale agreement, where you disclose the source of funds, if they are contingent, or well, not they're contingent, but if they weren't liquid. Now they've created a contingency that goes along with this, okay? And I want to talk about this for a minute and how it works. So let's just read through it. So if this transaction is or is not contingent upon the buyer obtaining funds from a contingent source, if the transaction is contingent upon buyer obtaining funds from a contingent source, and buyer determines that the contingent funds will not be available at closing, buyer will promptly notify seller, and the parties will have 2 business days following the date buyers notice the seller to either terminate the transaction by signing the OREF 057 termination agreement, or reach written agreement of price and terms that will permit this transaction to continue. Seller and buyer are not required in the preceding provision B to reach the agreement. If A or B fail to occur within the time identified in this section, this transaction will automatically be terminated and deposits will probably be refunded. So this here, this cure to this contingency is essentially the same as the cure to the financial contingencies in section 5.2. But what's so scary about this to me, if you represent a seller, is that if grandma is getting gift funds and the day before closing, buyer decides they don't want to buy the house, grandma cannot give them the gift funds. You're gonna have a really hard time proving that grandma changed her mind for any reason other than what the kids told her to do. Okay, so if you're representing a seller, you want to pay real close attention to this. I would be really wary about accepting offers with gift funds, because if someone changes their mind, how are you going to prove that the funds didn't just disappear? They did it for, for a bad faith reason.
And the lenders, there was a time when the lenders required immediately that the gift funds commitment
Well, they have
be
to
signed by whoever was giving the money. Like write an application, they would send a form out and say, we don't want to work on this loan unless this is signed.
Yeah, right. But with this, that's a separate, that's
Later process,
yeah. That's between the lender and the bot and the gifter, not the. So this can cause some issues. So I would pay real close attention to this, and don't get ideas with your buyer's agent. This is just mean your caveat out, because if somebody can figure out that you did this, you're going to get in big trouble. Okay. If you encourage your clients to back out using this and it wasn't in good faith and you get caught, you're going to get in huge trouble. you're gonna pay the buyer, you're gonna pay the seller the earnest money. And you're gonna get sanctioned and by the state and by the Association of Realtors. So don't do it. Okay. You shouldn't have to, right? You don't want your clients to.
So Kelly, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you're representing a seller and you see that funds are contingent on receiving gift funds
Yeah.
from grandma. Are you, as a seller agent, advising your client to ask for some sort of assurances?
Yeah, what I think I would do is I would say that I wouldn't want those funds deposited with escrow. At a certain, probably as the last contingencies like run out, like maybe as, you know, maybe.
End of the home inspection.
Maybe the end of the home
latest.
inspection or like just before the appraisal, something like that. I would want to have that money, you know. I think that's what I would do.
I would put down within 2 days of completion of an acknowledgement of the inspection period,
Yeah.
successful completion of the,
Sure.
right? So that whoever it is, they can call and say, okay,
Yeah,
we have 48 hours to get the money in because we have just removed all the inspection contingencies.
yeah, and in fact, I would probably not even have a deposit, I would just say, let's just waive this instead, let's just waive this clause. Have it waived at a specific time, so this contingency shall expire at, and I can figure out language on that later. I haven't really had a chance to work my head around it, but we can figure something out that works, because I think we should protect our sellers from this. Cool, any other questions? All right. Okay, this is a good change here because there's potential for an appraisal to occur earlier in the transaction, default time frame. The seller can sell one or more, requires smoke detectors to shorten to 10 business days. So before, if you remember, like section 19, it was 15 business days to have the smoke detectors and whatnot in place. Now it's 10 business days. Remember this, guys, in the RMLS sale agreement, your clients, your listing clients already agreed to do this. The sellers already agreed to do this in the RMLS agreement. So 10 days to me is a little generous even. I mean, I should have already done. I would hate it I hate when the appraiser goes out, that's not there. The buyer has to pay for it to be taken care of. And this is one of the things the Oregon realtor form does really well, is that they penalize the seller. If it's not done, the seller has to pay for the reinspection. It's agreed to up front. But essentially, not having this done by 10 business days, and sellers essentially kind of agreeing the same thing. It just nobody has a hard time. It never gets enforced, but I would push to do that. If I was representing a buyer, and that wasn't done. Any questions on that? Solar panels. So they create. There's a change to this addendum here. So there's a question about solar panels here. Does it contain solar panels? Yes or no? If it does, then you want to use this addendum, guys. I don't know if you've ever dealt with a sale that has solar panels on it before, but the lease is part of the property. So your client's going to have to agree to either maintain the lease of the equipment or the purchase of the equipment or not. The removal of the equipment is very damaging to a roof because they're bolted onto the roof generally. So if you take them off, there's holes left, and who's going to be doing the work to replace them? So typically I've seen people want to keep the solar panels, but if for some reason they didn't like the terms of the agreement, whatever it might be. Anyways, there's an addendum now that addresses that, and be sure to use it 105. The home warranties, this is something that happens a lot. In fact, it just happened yesterday. I got a phone call from an agent who the seller had agreed to pay for the home warranty, but it was never stipulated who orders the home warranty. And so everybody's kind of looking at each other. And so our agent ended up splitting the cost with the escrow agent who didn't order it. But anyways, now it's clarified. So it says yes, no, has been. So if yes, identify the plan, the cost, and to be ordered and paid for by buyer or seller. So that's a nice change that order. Okay, so now we know. So this is really riveting stuff here. The definition of delivery was added here, to add some language about stuff that gets mailed. It never happens, not on our part, we always email stuff, but it's there if you need it. And then signed and delivered, it's got some adjustments to it too. Really doesn't change how you do business anyway. Binding effect, this agreement is binding on the heir successors, buyer's rights and responsibilities. Again, not a big change to anything you guys do on a day-to-day basis. Definition of days here. time calculated days after triggering events such as delivery of a document will start the first full business day after the triggering event. We knew this already, but sometimes I get asked, what's the first day? What's the first business day? This kind of clears that up a little bit. Does everybody understand that? Okay, first full business day. Okay, and then this is at the end of the sale agreement delivered by seller's agent to seller for signature. So do you guys, does everybody get, every once in a while I see somebody confused about this. So if you are the listing agent or the seller's agent, you get an offer. When you send it to your client for signing, either that'd be rejecting or countering or whatever you might be doing, you put your name and the date you sent it in here, and it's recorded. And then there's also the same goes for the counter offers, the seller and buyer counter offers. That's been added. All right. Section 9.2, buyer's approval of park rules and road. This is on. Let's go to manufactured home. We don't use these very often, sorry. Agreement to occupy after closing. So again, just some minor changes in here. Section 6.6 is just one. They broke it up into two sections for the seller and the buyer. This is important to understand whose rights and responsibilities are involved in this. So basically, sellers still own the property and they're in control. That they don't own the property, but they're still on the property. So if there's anything that like breaks, it can be fixed. Seller has to fix it. If it breaks and can't be fixed, buyer has to fix it. Okay. If the seller breaks it, like from negligence or willful act, then they also have to fix it. But if it's just wear and tear and it collapses, then it's buyer's responsibility, unless it can be repaired. So like a dishwasher, let's say the refrigerator needs to be recharged. That would be something that a seller would do. If the refrigerator breaks, then the buyer has to fix it. If you guys have any questions about this, take a look at it and let me know at a later date. And then the buyer's notice of unconditional approval has been in our forms library for years, and it's been revised to include all the potential scenarios in the OREF library where a buyer may deliver notice of unconditional disapproval. So inspection reports, lead-based paint contingency, system contingency, brazing price, which we would never use here, HOA townhome plan, community documents, that's a big one. We don't use the manufactured home ones, investment property contingency, and the new construction professional inspection contingency. So it covers more things now, which is great, because again, we are freehanding notices, so we shouldn't be freehanding. So now we can just go to this, check the appropriate box, terminate transaction, get our clients earnest money back in writing. All right, kind of stop certificate. It's been changed for ease of use. Septic on-site sewage system. So they've kind of broken this out. I don't know if you guys have used these very often, but there's a pre-inspection service, which usually involves the pumping and cleaning of the septic tank because you can't inspect it when it's full. Typically, the seller pays for that now in our market. It just kind of clears that up and makes it a little bit easier to use and understand. And furthermore, it talks about the 10 business days to default and the buyer can terminate the transaction based upon the inspection report. If you have any questions about this addendum, please let me know. And then here's that solar panel system addendum we were talking about earlier. They've made a few improvements. So the status of the agreement, free and clear, solar panel is owned, free and clear is not subject to any solar agreement. Solar will convey the solar panels. System to buyer, free and clear, payoff at closing, removal of the solar panel system, or buyer's assumption, which is the typical one I see is this right here. All right. If you have any questions about how to use this form, let me know. Section 3 again, third party approval. So just a word to the wise, when you run into solar panels, this is the company that manages them. They sometimes aren't as efficient as you might like them to be. And so you need to get on this transition, get your buyer deciding what they want to do as soon as possible, because it can take a little while for the process to go through. They have to get a third party approval, which is usually, I've seen, just kind of a rubber stamp. If they qualify for a loan, they pretty much qualify for the transfer of the lease or the transfer of the sale agreement on the solar panels, but it's not as fast a process as you want, and you don't want anybody sitting out in front of the house waiting to close on it and move in because the solar panel company hasn't approved a buyer yet. So get on this as quickly as you can, get the ball moving and get it handled so it's not stressful at the end of the transaction. More. Okay, so there's some general changes from the word broker to agent to sale agreement. They've also are applying a new style guide to the sale agreement to make it look differently. So the mid-year forms might look slightly different than the rest. The forms that change mid-year might look slightly different than the entire sale agreement or than the entire catalog of forms. But at the end of the year, they will all be changed and they will all reflect the same changes. And that's it. If you have questions, you can obviously talk to OREF online or me. Thank you all. And I think that's about our meeting.
That's it.
That's it. You guys
Really?
got
Go
20
home early.
24 minutes extra today. I'm closing the office at 4:36 today. No?
Yeah.
No. Guys, thank you all. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks all.